Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, in the previous lecture, we did talk about communication, and probably our lecture was ended about the language and communication. So let's extend that discussion a bit. And at the end of the previous lecture, I told you there are two main categories of communication, which are formed on the basis of the language. So now let's talk about those two main categories of communication. So communication can take place through verbal communication as well as through non-verbal communication. So these two are the main streams of communication. Main two kinds of communication are verbal and non-verbal communication. So let's start with verbal communication. What is verbal communication? Here is the word verbal. Let's analyze this word verbal. Now, if we split out the sentence, the word verbal, we will find that there are two elements in this word, two segments. One is verb and one is a. So basically, the root verb of verbal is verb. And if we check out the history of the verb, we can find out that basically, the English language has been derived from Greek and Latin. So verb is basically derived from the word verbum, verbum from Latin, and verbum means a word. So in other words, we can say verb is basically a word. But a question rises in my mind that why not any other part of speech like noun, pronoun, adverb, they are named on this word verbum? Why verb is named on verbum, which mean words? And in our previous lecture, we have thoroughly discussed that the basic unit of the language is the word, whether it is noun, pronoun, or any other part of speech. So word is the basic unit of any language. But why in English language the verbum is chosen for the verb, and why verb is used? That is basically, there is only one question, that no sentence of the language can be made without verb. So verb is the word of a sentence. So whenever we are speaking using any language, we are relying on the verb, which is basically word. So whenever we are using words in communication or verbs in communication, both are the same as I have explained. Whenever we use any language, and language, we use body language, other, we are not talking about all those languages. I'm saying whenever we use language which carries words or verbs in it, like English language, Urdu language, Pashto language, Punjabi, Sindhi, Balochi language, to communicate, whenever we are using these languages which carry words, that to communicate, that kind of communication is basically called verbal communication. Now, there is a misconception about the verbal communication. People try to confine it as well. People think that when typically they define the verbal communication as a spoken language. So definitely this is the spoken language. However, we use verbs and words while we are writing. So verbal communication refers to any exchange that use the words, whether words are in the written form or words in the spoken form. So basically we are relying on the word. So that's why the verbal communication may be written or may be spoken. So both are the part of verbal communication, whether we are speaking a language or we are writing a language, and language which carries word, that is verbal communication. So this is about verbal communication. And what else? That is non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication, we are not using words, verbs, that is non-verbal communication. So every other way of communication which primarily not focuses on the use of apparent token value of the words. Here I have used intentionally the phrase apparent token values of the words, mean apparent meaning of the word. Whatever is the meaning of the word, we are always taking in that condition. So that is about verbal communication. But whatever is not about the token value of the words, mean we are not exactly translating the word in that sense, that is also non-verbal communication. Here I am talking about the paralanguage, but I'll discuss in the later part in the next lecture that one. So simply let's talk about the non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is the transmission of message or signal through a non-verbal platforms. There are different non-verbal platforms such as body language, which is called kinesics, space language, which is called proxemics, paralanguage that I was talking about earlier on, then haptics, that is about touch language, then chronemics, that is about the time itself speaks without using the word, then oculesics. And now we should move on to the first one, that is kinesics. Kinesics is basically the body language. The first part of kinesics is appearance, facial expressions or face expressions, gestures and the postures. Then eye contact is also part of the body language, but this is also the major part, so that's why we are taking it as oculesics, eye contact. We'll talk about it later on. First let's talk about the appearance. So appearance communicates even whenever we are involved in any communicative instance. Even before that communicative instance, our appearance communicates. For example, you go for an interview, two persons are going for an interview. They are from your university, they are from the same university, from the same background. One has got more than 3 GPA and one has got around 2.9 GPA, or one has got 3.5 GPA and one has got 3 GPA. So when they are going for the interview, if the person who is with 3.5 GPA, mean who looks like technically more sound, and the other person who has got only 3 GPA, if the person with 3 GPA is going and he's well dressed, well shaved, and if he has beard, he has well combed his beard, then this is his appearance. And the second person, though he has 3.5 GPA, but he has not made his appearance well, he is looking quite shabby. So whenever they appear in the interview, let me ask you, if you are the employer, who would you like to select for your company? Whether the person who is more able with 3.5 GPA but has not good appearance, and the person who is with 3 GPA. So we can say mostly the person with 3 GPA would be selected because he has good appearance. And we can generally say, I'm not talking about when they speak. Before speaking, using their words, a general perception that employer and interviewer is getting. So what's the reason? The reason is the appearance. The appearance of the person with 3 GPA is good. And overall impression, what I would get, that would be if a person who has got even 3.5 GPA, he can't manage his own self, how he is going to manage the responsibilities of my company. So here, appearance, which is a non-verbal way of communication, has communicative more loudly than words. So that's why appearance, that's how appearance communicates, and this is the one way of non-verbal communication. The second is facial expression. It is usually said that the face is the index of mind. So whatever you are thinking in your mind, that is quite visible on your face. Sometimes you come back from your vacations and in your class you find that your very close friend is sitting there and his face expressions are telling that he is a bit sad. He is not saying that he is a bit sad, but after watching his face, you would definitely go to him and you would ask him, is everything okay? So, what is the thing that has communicated that is face expression? Usually, I am delivering the lecture in the classroom, so that is also communication. But the students sitting in front of me, they are all the time not responding with the words. How do I know this two-way process is going on? Their face expressions are responding. If they are understanding everything, their face expressions would be different. If they seem bewildered, puzzled, or confused, that would indicate that they are not understanding few things. So then I can ask them, what's the problem? So this is how your face communicates. If someone is happy, his face tells us. If someone is sad, his face tells us. Now, let's come to the gestures. Gestures are the movements of body which communicate something. Like here, I have given a gesture to make you understand rather than speaking too much. So this gesture usually we use for appreciation of we want to say something is too good, that is superb, then we use this kind of gesture. So a gesture is a form of non-verbal and we can say non-vocal communication. Mean we are not uttering any sound, in which visible body actions communicate particular message either in place of or in conjunction with speech. Sometime we are speaking and we are giving these gestures, and sometime without speaking. Gestures includes the movement of hands, face and body. Here you can see, and as I have told you about this gesture. Now let's talk about two more gestures here, like this one. Usually we use the word nod. Nod when we are basically moving our head down and up in a position that we are saying yes. So now this position, head down, up, this is for nodding. So this is yes. So this is one gesture. And if we are moving our head to right and left like this, then that is called shake. So when I spoke something, he was shaking his head, it means that is a disagreement or he is saying no. If I ask you, do you understand what I said? And you move your head like this, you are shaking your head, it means no. And if you are nodding your head, you are not using any word, but you are communicating yes. So these are the gestures. Then there is another gesture that is shrugging, means showing indifference. So these shoulders, that is not the exact picture, but I have used this one. These shoulder, when we use these shoulders as bringing them upwards and showing indifference, that we don't know about this thing, so we are showing indifference. So this gesture is called shrugging. So these are the different gestures, mean particular movement of our hands or our body is indicating something, and this is a non-verbal communication. Now let's move on to the posture. Posture is overall body. In the gesture we are talking about some particular parts of body, but just posture is our complete body. Sometimes our complete body indicates something. Posture can provide a significant amount of information through non-verbal communication. Psychological studies have also demonstrated the effects of posture. Now you can see this posture. This shows that she is quite worried and she is thinking about something. So this is one posture, and there is another posture that I would like to tell you. So this is, now you can make the comparison of these two postures. So quite disappointed, a lazy kind of boy, and he is quite happy and healthy. So these are the postures. Sometimes the students among you, they come for the presentation and their postures definitely tells us that what they are thinking, how they are behaving, and whether they are nervous or not. So this is about posture. Now, the last thing of body language is eye contact. Oculesics. This is oculesics, mean occurrence from our eyes. Sometimes our eye contact communicate the study of communicative role of the eyes in non-verbal communication. Mean non-verbally we communicate. It may be culturally vary. Mean for example, if we are staring at someone, so in our culture they may be considered as anger, but in other culture they may be about wandering something. So here I have used a very simple picture to tell you, even this baby who can't speak, but he is looking worried on the eye contact of his father. So this is how your eye contact communicates. So this is the first part of the non-verbal communication that I have discussed in this lecture, and earlier on I talked about the body language, the verbal communication. Now in the upcoming lecture we will try to cover up the proxemics, paralanguage, haptics and chronemics. So let's discuss about this topic in the next lecture. So far it's all for you. If you have any queries you can ask me. Thank you very much for today's lecture.